The release of Team Sonic Racing marks the third installment in the Sonic Kart Racing franchise. The second title, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, is my favorite kart racer and, in my opinion, one of the best kart racers ever made. So if that gives you any idea of how excited I was for this game, you'd see why I'm so eager to cover it on the channel. I'd like to say thanks to the kind people over at SEGA for sending me a review copy of this game, but I also want all of you to know that the opinions expressed in this video are completely and 100% my own, and are in no way influenced by anybody or anything else. With that said, my name is Tony, and this is Team Sonic Racing. Let's start with the basics. First and foremost are the visuals. Due to hardware limitations, I had to record most of this game in 720p, so unfortunately, this video might not communicate just how stunning some of the tracks look, especially when played on the PS4 Pro. The cars themselves are all uniquely designed and definitely fit the characters that drive them. Tails, for example, drives a car that looks similar to the Tornado from the adventure games. Generally speaking, the cars look and feel great, but I do have one small gripe with them. There must be something going on with the way that the game renders the light and glow effects of the cars, because I find some paint jobs a little bit hard to look at. Thankfully, this can be quickly changed by changing the paint job in the game's customization menus, but there's nothing that can be done for the AI's vehicles. You'll be spending most of your time racing down the game's 21 tracks, most of which are colorful, vibrant, and unique. Sonic fans will recognize a lot of the tracks in the game, as most of them are based on Sonic's past adventures. There are a few standouts, like Mother's Canyon, Haunted Castle, and some of the casino tracks. There's also a couple of duds, unfortunately. The quality of design is just a little inconsistent between tracks. The ones that I mentioned beforehand managed to stand out from the crowd, but linear and bland track design, in addition to similar visual motifs, causes some of the tracks to get lost in the mix. Even the less interesting tracks do have a silver lining, however, and that's in the music. I wouldn't expect anything less than a stellar soundtrack from a Sonic game, especially when that soundtrack is composed by Jun Senoue. There's a song for every track in the game, often incorporating some musical nods to other Sonic soundtracks. My favorite example of this has to be the remix of Can You Feel the Sunshine from Sonic R. The soundtrack is definitely one of the highlights of the game, but that's not to say that the game itself doesn't have much else to offer. As far as arcade kart racers go, Mario Kart is usually seen as the golden standard, but I'd argue that the competitive crowd would prefer the Sonic racing games a little bit more. As with all of the games in its genre, Team Sonic Racing does rely on luck-based item boxes to shake up the flow of a race, but those items have far less of an impact than you would expect. At the end of the day, Team Sonic Racing rewards good racers more than it does lucky racers, which is, in my opinion, much more suitable for competitive players. Another aspect that sets this game in particular apart from other kart racers is a cooperative element. Although there is an option to play standard races on your own, the game has multiple team-focused mechanics that encourage cooperative play. Racers are split up into teams of 3, with the game assigning you 2 AI teammates if you're playing alone. A team consists of 1 speed type, 1 technique type, and 1 power type character, although this really only applies for the team adventure mode. As an individual, your goal is not only to come in first, but to help your team place highly as well. At the end of the race, your combined points will be compared to the other teams and the highest total wins. This system encourages players to help out their teammates instead of working alone if they want to win. One way that players can help out their teammates is with their slipstream. Whichever player is in the lead from your team will leave a yellow trail behind them for their teammates to follow. If the teammate drives inside the trail for a few seconds, they'll build up a boost that activates once they leave the slipstream. This tactic is called a slingshot, and it works best when all 3 teammates stick together to chain slingshots off of each other. Another mechanic that can be helpful is a Skim Boost. A Skim Boost happens when one racer skims past a teammate that is either stopped or driving slowly, giving them a little boost to get back into the race. I wasn't able to reliably pull this move off though, so I wouldn't count on it too much. A smaller but effective mechanic is the ability to swap wisps, or item boxes, with your teammates. Doing so will allow you to obtain certain wisps that only other types of racers can get, or even turn 1 boost into 3. I found this tactic to be extremely helpful, especially when I'm up in first place and have no use for bombs or missiles, but my teammate who's back and forth might be able to make use of them. This is a fantastic concept that becomes even more strategic when playing with other human racers as opposed to AIs. You can actually ask for and receive wisps that will help you in your current situation. Another benefit of swapping wisps is that it also helps build up the ultimate meter underneath your car, so I find myself just throwing everything I get back to my teammates. Once the meter is filled, you can activate a team ultimate that grants you invincibility and faster speed for a short time. Although these ultimates are useful and can turn the tide of a race, I can't help but find them lackluster in comparison to the star powers from the previous game. They all pretty much look and feel the same, which leads to a more generic looking ultimate overall. It's simply lacking that polish that I've come to expect from these games, so it's fair to say that I'm a little bit disappointed. Another thing that's a bit disappointing as well is the character roster itself. Sure, you have the classics like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and you even have some fan favorites like Metal Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. But the roster overall seems pretty small, with only 15 playable characters as opposed to over 20 from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. I understand that there are only so many characters to choose from once you strip out all of Sega's other properties, but there are still some major Sonic characters that were overlooked for this game. As for the characters we do have, however, each one has a variety of alterations that can be made to their cars through the use of the customization system. Each car can be outfitted with 3 different parts that change the overall look of the car. Half of these parts are just golden reskins of the other half though, which does limit your options a bit, but even then you can still create a lot of different combinations with what's available. In addition to changing the parts of the car, you can also throw on a new paint job to personalize your new vehicle even further. You only have a few different colors to work with, but you also have the option to swap color palettes altogether for something brand new. In order to unlock these new parts and color palettes, you'll have to head over to the mod shop to spend your mod points. They aren't too hard to come by, but you're gonna need to put in a lot of hours in order to unlock everything that this game has to offer. That's because your mod points are used to roll for random rewards. Although this could mean a new part, it could also mean a bonus box. The randomness of this system means that you will have to spend a lot of time grinding for mod points in order to unlock every part and color palette in the game. Fortunately, the game does seem to favor parts for the characters that you play the most, and you also can't roll duplicate parts, which means you will finish your collection eventually. Apart from changing the looks of the car, each part will slightly change the stats of your vehicle as well. This can be useful if you're trying to get better handling out of a power types car, for example. I tend to prioritize handling and speed over other stats, so I choose to mod Tails' car to increase my acceleration at the cost of boost and defense. The only problem with this system, if you can really call it that, is that it fails to really change the purpose of your character, as a speed type character will still be faster than a power type. Like I said, this doesn't seem like it would be a problem, as each type of character should have its purpose on the team after all, but that's exactly where the problem lies. If the tracks were truly designed to encourage team play, then they should have portions in which each type of character is allowed to shine. There are some instances where power type characters have access to exclusive shortcuts, and technique type characters can drive over rough terrain, but for the most part, the game favors speed type characters. As long as you can drive accurately enough with a speed type, there's no real reason to choose a slower character. This is even more evident in the standard race modes online, as you tend to only see speed type characters in these situations. And that actually brings us to the online mode for Team Sonic Racing. When it works, but I've had some pretty bad luck on my end so far. Either nobody is playing online, or the servers need some serious revamping because I can't seem to find many matches. I usually end up getting stuck in a lobby all by myself, but even when I do find another group after 5 or so attempts, it's only 3 or 4 other people at max. There have been a few instances where I was in a race with a few other players, but then the game kicked me off during the 3rd lap. So I think it's safe to say that the servers might be a little bit unstable. The state of Team Sonic Racing's online mode is unfortunate, because I think that it could be a really fun environment due to all of the different game modes that are available, but until the servers are fixed, I'm gonna probably stick to the Team Adventure mode. Oh, that's right, this game has a story mode. It's nothing too fancy or even all that interesting to be honest, but it does have a few references to Sonic history and some fun character interactions if you want to check it out. If not, however, you can actually choose to skip the entire story with the press of a button before every event. It does seem a little bit odd that skipping the story seems to be the default, but I think Sumo Digital knows that most of your time in Team Adventure mode will be spent replaying events over and over, rather than watching the game's static cutscenes. Why would you want to keep replaying events, you ask? Because every event has multiple tasks for you to complete in order to unlock all 3 stars. You'll find yourself unlocking most of these stars on your first run through, but you might want to head back and clean up anything you might have missed. For team races, this could simply be to finish in the top 3 or to come in first place as a team. As for the minigame events, you're asked to get a silver and platinum medal on each event. This is proven to be the most difficult portion of the game, as some events require near perfect execution to receive the platinum medals. I actually enjoy the difficulty though, and I commend the game for giving even the most skilled racers a challenge. The minigames in general are some of my favorite parts of the game, as they provide a variety of fun objectives to break up the monotony of team races. Although this is another aspect of the game where your character selection could have had more of an impact, as some events seem to be tailored to either technique or power characters, but theoretically you can complete them all by just using Sonic. Again, I wish that the game gave more importance to the type of racer you choose to play. And therein lies Team Sonic Racing's biggest problem. Despite the creative and innovative concept of cooperative racing and team-based mechanics, the implementation of this idea falls a little bit flat. They should have really honed into that team element by giving each team member their own strengths and weaknesses, and discouraging players from only having to pick Sonic for every situation. All things considered, this isn't a crippling issue to have, but it is something that I find to be a bit of an oversight. Team Sonic Racing is a bright, colorful, and enjoyable experience that has a marvelous soundtrack and plenty of fan service for fans of the franchise. The Team Adventure mode provides a great assortment of races, minigames, and Grand Prix to spend your time with, and a mountain of challenging events to complete for more skilled players. The messy state of the online mode leaves players with little to do after completing the single player, but I think that it has the potential to be a great online environment for both competitive and casual players. And the decision to focus on brand new team-based mechanics instead of expanding on the transformative nature of the previous title seems like a bold strategy that might not have been fully realized. The game does a fantastic job of creating a fast, fun, and skillful kart racing experience, but in comparison to the games that came before it, Team Sonic Racing takes a small step back. Once again, I'd like to state that although SEGA did provide my copy of Team Sonic Racing, this review is entirely my own and in no way influenced by anyone or anything else. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. My name is Tony, and I'll see you all next time.